force that because his content seemed much better compared to Elliot's judging moments on it's been the subject of yet another by a small research. Obviously, this man is during the era where his eyes are right now, but still, he showed people some of this stuff and told me that maybe besides his 2012, it looked really proud, especially considering how many these guys were basically and though it's not too obvious, there's a slightly noticeable increase in how he is, but still, even with what had happened to Tom, not only did he but actually, by fall 2012, I asked myself a Furby's Calling and Crazy Christmas Mania. If ever there was a crossroads moment, it's 2012. I was asking about one. For the time being, it looks like he was heading in the right direction, focusing on his videos while going to college without relapsing into things looks good, but odds are still nice. Notice Grace December 2012, much to the history of guy who said that John had something like that. That's the other thing that his college video conducted class was not
Hello there, my name is John McCarthy, and I would like to welcome you to PGA Tour 2K23. I'm so excited to get into this. We are here to play a bit of matchmaking fun. 3 holes ahead of us. Stroke play are the rules. All right, send it. This is an 8 iron. Oh, let's see what you can do on this one. This is heading for some trouble. Well, you didn't hit this one, but that's okay. Okay, out of the green side bunker. Let's have a nice up and down and skedaddle. All right, out of that bunker, onto the green. Let's go. Well, let's see what happens here. This is her second.
Oh.
And she's setting up here for par. Ooh. And this one to save par. Ah, just right by the hole. 5-foot putt here. Okay, starting the round above par here today, but hopefully we can shave some strokes off as we progress. And there we go.
The result of this incessant sequence of catastrophic events is
all right, Lydia Ko getting ready to tee off here. Okay, let's rip this out into the fairway.
Thank you.
This time, it didn't change how we felt overall, and that's when Ember came back into the play. Many people have taken notes about how Sonichu is actually a demonic entity that torments Mister. But if there ever was a candidate for a mentally unstable person of that section, absolutely, even
Hopefully this sticks to the fairway. A little wayward on the approach. That's all right, though. This is her second shot of the hole.
And the full runs into obsession to take Santa before. Paradoxically, despite the dignity reality of how bad he felt and how depressed he was, he occasionally describes it as if this is real. I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to deal with anyone anymore. In 2013 verse is a hell of a strong one. I never thought one bad year would make me feel better. And the thing is, I like it. I love it. I love the darkness, the sadness, the abyss of it all. Singing into the depths of the bed is literally a whole player.
Okay, third shot.
Further explain how we felt as a provider song.
Here we go. Let's save par on this one. Going towards that hole. All right, there it is. That's your par. And here she goes with a 5-foot putt. And that one goes in with a bird. And you're one over at the moment. And let's see what Lydia Ko does off of this tee. Teeing it up on the final hole of this matchup, and you're only one stroke off the lead. Okay, there we go. And this one's about 180 yards out.
I'm not sure what exactly this is called, but it's not rare for people who are intense and unhealthy fear of something to start actively seeking it out. Because we can interpret what we fear as challenges, it's only natural.
Yep, that swing was a little bit off.
That's why people do things like that.
Well, better luck next time. And here's her second.
Self-destructive. For people with death anxiety and suffer from doing things like visiting cemeteries and morgues may soothe their disorders because doing so gives them a feeling of power over them, taking away from the sleep and consequently their anxiety. From Randy's diary, it seems very much to be the case that this is a motivated business session. I can't get death off my mind. It's on my mind that it's 14 out of 18 hours of my life. The most beautiful.
They've gone with the 6-iron on this one.
I can't emphasize how much death fascinates me. It's almost like a distraction, a sexual attraction. So many times
okay, here's our third shot.
Once I realized how the world works, I would either daydream in class about using good boys, girls, or that. These days, those are still my favorite. And then seems like girls on top of it.
Okay, setting up here on the green side rough. Ooh, there we go. Chipping it in to end your round. Well done.
This is how I get it. Virtually every 10 to 25 minutes, I do something decorated. If the other 3 minutes, it's a lot. I just can't get the thoughts of my final. Like, just to think.
And for her birdie.
My last time saying goodnight to my parents, let alone seeing that. My last time posting on social media. My last time driving my Hyundai Sonata.
Oh no, it's right there.
It goes on and on. It's going to be very surreal just knowing all things are contact in this world and I did itself. Mind you, these are just a few particular
Okay, it'll be a par for her on the final hole of her day. All right, we finish up here with a 1 over par. And with that, I will leave you to your own devices. Thank you for the round, and we'll see you next time.
Music is like home. Whenever I feel
details about the band's future, saying they were going back to Ohio in a few weeks to record again. He was very open, which surprised me, even just rambling. But then came the talk that would be the downfall of our relationship, the music video discussion. I thought that I was an automatic lock for the new music video, but I was wrong. Me and my brother had even gotten sharp new lenses, which I told him would make the previous music video look like a joke. He seemed somewhat intrigued and said, "We want this video to be perfect," which, being the perfectionist that I am, led me to think, I'm your guy. He hinted that he'd keep me in mind, but I thought for sure I'd be able to help in some form. The entire winter passes, nothing. I text him asking if they're working on anything interesting, says something along the lines of, "Nah man, just hanging around." About a month and a half passed, and the bassist tweeted about checking recording a successful music video off the list. This is when the lies started. In the end, I'm glad they went with the production company because I wouldn't have been able to make it look like that. Anyways, I brushed that disappointment off and just figured doing cartoons over video was the best option. I haven't seen Andrew since that late October day. I began to grow more and more enraged with him, whether it be ignoring my texts or giving short, puny replies to lengthy messages. I got vibes that he didn't give a shit about the endless hours I spent animating the music video or my animation in general. I mentioned to him possibly spending 8 months on an animated music video. Nothing. 15 months perfecting my animation skill. Nothing. I filmed their first ever music video. 0 credit. He goes on to explain that he went back and forth with the band over online messages, trying to get the instrumental for another song of theirs, and after months of not giving him a clear answer, they eventually said the band had agreed not to give out stems from their tracks. Randy's reaction to this was to unfriend them on every social media and write the vocalist a 3-page letter detailing his feelings and struggles and how Send Request music changed his life, unprompted. Of course, the vocalist was taken aback and tried to relate to Randy, but to no avail, since Randy's goal wasn't actually to
friend.
connect
My
with him
name
or
is John
establish a
McCarthy, and
relationship.
I
He
want
was
to
just after
welcome
the
you
instrumental so he
PGA
could do his
Tour
EGS video. It's
2K23.
really eerie how Randy's
I
entire
am
relationship
ready
with
to
several
roll.
people was
We are
conditional
just
on
about
them
ready to
indirectly
go.
fueling his
Just
EGS
3 holes
obsession, almost
today
as
in
if he
this
dehumanized them to a
matchmaking
certain
stroke
extent,
play
relegating their
affair.
worth to what they
Let's
can
go.
provide him for his autistic animations. It's also interesting because this is one of the few times we see Randy be anything but bleak and aloof regarding the outside world. It's in moments like these that it's visible how truly alien he is to people around him. He thinks that recording everyday conversations without other people's knowledge is a fine thing to do, and secretly using it in one of his videos is a funny secret, not kind of creepy. He also expects a band that is trying to commercialize their music to completely understand him taking 8 months to make a music video for them, with the original character he created based on an all but forgotten Danny Phantom villain from well over a decade prior, despite his animation skills being not very good. He described their falling out as his dreams being crushed and that they made a grave mistake in wronging him, while also mentioning that he sent the vocalist yet another page-long message as a
Oh, hey, I was just going for a drive, which is wild because up until very recently, the thought of driving more than 5 minutes away would send a surge of adrenaline through my veins and keep me trapped in my house. That city, population, that sounds familiar. Let's take this outside. Luckily, I signed up for BetterHelp about a year ago. Started chipping away at my anxieties with Elizabeth. You want an Elizabeth Warren? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with a licensed professional.
He's ready to let her
You
rip
start
here. Let's see what he
communicating
does.
within 48 hours if you want. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. BetterHelp is available worldwide with over 20,000 licensed therapists ready to go. Because they know it's important to find the right match, they make it both easy and free to change therapists at your request. More affordable than traditional counseling. They mental aid. Join the over 1
Okay,
million
here we go.
people
Let's launch
taking
this one
charge
out
of
there.
their mental health today.
Well, that'll happen. Okay, he appears to be ready to roll on this one. Let's see how this tee shot goes.
Other grocery items, they have meat.
a response. He couldn't be more out of touch with other human beings if he tried to. He by saying that since he wasn't given the stems for the song he wanted to, he planned to forever ruin it by associating it with the crime he began to plan around that time. He circumvented the band and went to the
He's
person
trying to get out
responsible
of
for
this
producing the record, and ultimately spent
Well,
over
let's see how
$200 to
this
get the
goes.
mastered stems just so that he could use it in his animation. Mind you, he's working part-time on the night shift at a supermarket at this point, so $200 is a lot of money, yet he gleefully splurges it on something as inconsequential as that. It's likely that after his blowing up of the vocalist DMs, the band decided to look a little further into Randy's
Going
online
with the 9
presence, only to
iron on this
discover
one.
how unhinged he was based on the videos he'd been uploading on his
So, yeah,
YouTube
yeah,
channel,
just
and they immediately
right
privated the video Randy had recorded for them that was up on their channel. In 2015, Randy grew increasingly wary of having his online presence scrutinized by his family members or people who knew him in real life, leading him to change his name on everything he had online. However, this wasn't the only reason. In a document from much later,
Swing
he
didn't
reveals
feel
that during
right.
this period something happened, which
That's gonna
Randy
miss the
called
green.
Randy
Unfortunate.
Gates, that signed the death sentence
And
for
this
the
will be his
Pioneers
second
Productions
shot.
era. It started with one of his fans, who had written lewd fan fiction about him in late 2014. While Randy tried to act as if he appreciated it, he couldn't hold the act up for very long and eventually blocked him. This fan, whom we'll call Dave, started ranting on Twitter to other Pioneers Productions fans who took his side and attacked Randy online. Even though Randy eventually made peace with them, it further demotivated him to keep making the same kind of content he used to. As he slowly pivoted to EGS material, two new fans did get on board. Sammy and Haley. Being completely unaccustomed to having fans, Randy engaged with them directly, which was a grave mistake since this made them extremely devoted to his online presence, liking and sharing everything he did obsessively. In total, there were around 5 to 8 people in this online bubble of dedicated EGS followers.
And let's
This
see
began
how he gets
annoying
out of this
Randy
one.
almost immediately, as he was unintentionally getting roped into their lives and exchanging DMs with them. This was set into hyperdrive once one of the fans started frequently threatening to do something drastic on their Twitter account, publicly tagging Randy to get his attention. Being the misanthropic loner he was, with the dark tendencies he was already struggling with, it was excruciatingly difficult for Randy to try and do the reasonable thing, which was talking this person down from what they had in mind to do, or telling the police. A particularly part of this whole ordeal was that this fan of Randy's would often disappear for days, causing Randy to spend his entire workday refreshing Twitter constantly to see if they'd posted. Eventually, it became too much for him and he blocked her, earning him yet another wave of hate from his remaining followers. As a
What will
consequence
go
of him
down here? He's
ostracizing
in the
himself from the
sand.
bubble, he stopped doing live streams and further distanced himself from YouTube. But eventually, this bubble of people had a very different perspective as they collectively interpreted Randy's newer, darker videos as veiled threats to their lives. In mid to late 2015, he made a new Twitter account called EGS Andrew,
he's
where he
setting up
frequently
for the green
posted cryptic
side
updates
sand.
about the general EGS phenomenon. Around the same time, he made a wiki page for EGS, and in it, we can find some additional headcanon Randy wrote. Founded in the 1980s, EGS is one of the most cherished squads in the afterlife. Short for Ember's Ghost Squad, Ember McLean founded the organization not long after perishing in a house fire. During recruiting, all souls are fair game. Although the squad's traits vary extremely, recruiters generally search for lost cause souls, typically people battling depression or have become outcasts in their daily environment. Lost causes who finally earn their chance to be who they truly are make the EGS one of the strongest squads in the afterlife. There are occasions where recruiters physically reach out to those amongst the living, offering a way out of their tormented misery. In these circumstances, recruiting is cleverly executed as to not make society aware of the spiritual forces overshadowing the earth. There are rare circumstances where the EGS will purposely plan a sudden recruitment for an individual whose traits perfectly fit into their system. The appearance of an EGS recruiter is masked by shadows on the face and skin. Only the eyes and clothing are visible, surrounded by darkness and their own unique hue. There are hundreds of recruiters in the EGS. Only the best of the best are promoted. When recruited by EGS, your features may vary based on your life's interests, mental scars, and emotional traits. Each recruit has the ability to fly, turn intangible, sing decently, travel to Earth, perform basic hypnosis, play the guitar, and travel to other dimensions. By practicing and performing spells, recruits can improve their skills and reach new levels in the squad. The book, So You're No Longer Living, the EGS Guide to the Afterlife, is distributed to new recruits. Randy also wrote lore for each of the EGS recruiters he created, but they're pointlessly long and detailed for no reason. Strangely enough, he specifies that regardless of whether someone was male or female during their life on Earth, upon joining the EGS, they become female souls. And he also makes a point to say that all of the members are at least 7 feet tall, including the frog toy from his videos, which he thoughtfully includes as one of the recruiters. Some of the characters were even 10 feet tall, and it's difficult to understand why this was a focal point for Randy. It's been speculated that he based these characters either on different aspects of himself or on the personalities of the people who were a part of his life, potentially the friends of his who tragically died a few years prior. However, it's very difficult to discern any meaningful information just by looking into Randy's entries on the wiki. He also made several Twitter accounts, one called EGS World as a main hub for all EGS related things, and a few others for each respective member of the squad. What's even more disturbing is that Randy actively managed and posted from all of these accounts, making them interact with one another as if they were real people. While he was initially pleased about leaving his job at the hospital and going back to working in the supermarket, and even happier that he got to work the night shift, his glee was rapidly deteriorating as the job wore him down. At first, it was alright, but it quickly became overwhelming with stress from management. The job isn't hard, it just drags. Non-order nights feel like an eternity. I've long exhausted my music library. The best part is there's no one to bother you. I've even had shifts where it was just me and the floor guy who leaves at 3 a.m. and me all night. It's peaceful, but man do I get bored. You level the store and fill holes or do backstock on non-order nights. It gets old fast. 2016 begins with the last entry to the anthology series, Abyss. The video is just a monologue by Randy, in which he does a little bit of an impression of Heath Ledger's Joker while trying to sound as menacing as possible, while the camera either zooms on his face or pans around his room, showing his My Little Pony memorabilia, the innumerable images of Ember he has plastered on the walls, along with posters from the movie Frozen and the Angry Video Game Nerd, the poster for which was actually signed by the nerd himself.
People see us as mentally ill, introverts, weirdos, screwballs, creeps, psychopaths. I see us as standout gifted souls.
Again, it would be cringy if it wasn't a real sign of his psychological decay. As Randy had already explained in his diary, as early as 2014, his rage had been building up, and he was already planning to commit some kind of violent crime. But even he had no idea what it was, or even if he was actually going to do it, or just take himself out and leave it at that. It seems that, by the end of 2015, he already had an idea of not just what to do, but when he would do it. One of his cryptic tweets signaled it would happen on May 7th, 2019, with no further clarification. While the first half of the year didn't have any significant updates, according to Randy's goodbye video, it was during this relatively quiet period that he was completely sucked into another obsession, Columbine. According to
Very
him,
interesting.
everyone
So
saw the
we have in store
perpetrators
for
of
us
that crime
here.
as monsters, when he saw them as the true victims. And in his words, grew to love them and see them as an inspiration. He was particularly enamored with one of the criminals' t-shirts, which said natural selection, obviously striking a nerve in Randy, who immediately associated it with his beliefs about tragedies, like them
Well,
being inevitable and
unfortunately, we
fated
missed
to
the
happen.
green here.
In order to further learn about what had happened, he made an account on a discussion forum dedicated to the shooting, and his profile is still up to this day. While most of his posts aren't noteworthy and just express an interest in learning more about it, a few give a little insight into whatever remained of the person Randy used to be before his obsession with Ember completely seized him. In a post, he expresses disbelief that the parents of the perpetrators didn't pick up on the signs, which can be chalked up
Here's
to
his
Randy
second
projecting
shot.
his own situation onto their stories. At this point, he wasn't trying very hard at all to be secretive about what he was up to. For example, he got himself 3 natural selection t-shirts, and still, no one picked up on it, leading him to resent them further. In a much more revealing post, he says the following. The biggest question of all, though, is would any of the Harris family forgive Eric? The big question I've always wondered is, if the shooter's family saw their sons in the afterlife, would they forgive them? However, since he no longer went to school, he began feeling discouraged from doing
Tell you the
anything
truth, I don't
related
think
to
he's going to make
education,
this.
since his college campus
It's a bit
was
long.
either too secure or had too few clusters of people for him to effectively target anyone. And ultimately, he began contemplating just taking himself out in his room and being done with it. That is, until he decided to target the supermarket he worked at.
Just
He already
missed.
hated most of the people he worked with. Also inspired by the perpetrators of Columbine, near the end of 2016, Randy decided to start documenting
Well,
his
he's
thoughts in
sitting
a
up for a long
diary, as well as compiling
Not a lot
everything
will
he'd ever
happen
made
here.
online and his journey to the final acts of his story, something he dubbed the Soup Tapes. On November 23rd, he began writing what would ultimately pan out to be his autobiographical manifesto and testament. He opens with the following words. I have no regrets for what I may do or what I have done. I am who I am, and no human can take that away from me. I'm an EGS crew. You're all
And
worthless
that will
humans.
drop.
One day, you'll all see things my way.
And
Especially
he's
when
got
our ghost
13
squad
feet to the
invades your
cup.
pathetic, putrid planet. You become our slaves for the rest of your lives. I will not stop. I will not change. I will not cower. I will fight for the squad and do what I've set out to do.
And a
I
decent little
am
putt there.
Andrew Blaze. If there ever was a
Okay, this
time
one
in
to
which
save
someone
the
could have
hole.
intervened and stopped Randy from doing what he planned to do, that time was past when he began his
Went
diary.
right
He
by.
spends a few paragraphs declaring his admiration for
He's
Eric
going to want to
Harris
make
and
this
begins to essentially
10-foot
rewrite
putt.
the story of his life, adapting it to his current self, claiming he's always been this way and hated humanity since the beginning, which is clearly untrue. In an unintentionally pithy segment, immediately after he's done pontificating about how he hates the world,
And if he sinks this, that's going to be bogey. Ooh. And just inches to the hole. Okay, let's take a look at this next hole now. And he's making an attempt here at the double bogey.
Vaginal and urinary tract
Currently
discomfort
3
with
over
Ultra
par for the
Flora
day.
Women's, a once daily supplement with
He begins expressing his distaste for his own identity, particularly his name. He explains that he's always wanted to change his name to Andrew since middle school when he learned about Hurricane Andrew, and explains the meanings he ascribed to the name. He believes this is the name he's fated to have as a ghost girl in the afterlife, which is ironic considering the name Andrew comes directly from Greek, and it means man. In another document released a while later, he mentions the incident that prompted him to want to change his name in the first place. One time when my mom sat down and asked me if I was okay due to a post on my Facebook that my aunt saw, it was a post saying something like, I wish I could be somewhere else besides this world, and to just get away from everything. It'd make me happier. I can't remember fully what I wrote, but that was the gist of it, and it really upset my mom. I never got confronted about anything in terms of depression since then. After that happened, I completely removed anyone who knew me personally off of my social media. They were holding me back. This was also around the time when I changed my name. I wasn't Randy Stair anymore. I was Andrew Blaze. I knew full well that no one would be able to find any self-relief if I used a different name. And later on, I realized that Andrew Blaze was, in fact, my spiritual name. At least I'm 85% certain. It might be Rachel/Rachel something, but Andrew Blaze clicks. Going back to his diary, after declaring his hatred for people who smoke weed, he reveals what he thinks he'll be up to after he becomes part of the EGS. I can't stop envisioning myself in the Ghost Squad, being one of them, being happy. Recruiting humans after returning from the grave, manipulating and seducing humans with my feminine charm, and then brutally attacking them with a huge grin on my face. The power, the revenge, the Ghost Squad.
Got about 2:15 to go from
here. Reality. While he had seldom broached this topic in other instances, he begins talking about his perspective on religion, saying Christianity is a fairy tale, but that there are gods and goddesses. However, he follows up with a more uncertain outlook, saying that life could be a series of other things. a simulation where only one person actually exists,
Yeah,
a
might be
punishment,
in
or
a
how
little
he
bit of
prefers to
trouble
see it,
here.
a mission. In his
Here
mind,
we
he was
go.
sent
This
from
is
another
his
dimension to
second
Earth to learn some
shot.
kind of lesson. He repeats the aforementioned May 7th date, but doubts he's even going to be able to resist his urges to do something drastic for that long. While the EGS channel kept him going, it was getting harder for him as he became increasingly aware of the limitations he faced trying to make animated videos mostly on his
And
own.
they're
But he had
choosing
been able to
6
hire the
iron
help of a
here.
voice actor or two, who won't be named and had no idea that Randy would do what he
And
did.
he's looking
But
at
as far as the
around
animation itself,
190
he was
yards
having
to
a
the
very
pin.
hard time getting it all done in a timely manner, which is unsurprising considering how depressed he was at this stage. On the same day, he writes about how he began to hate the mere thought of eating, regularly going 20 hours with no food for the past year and a half. But soon after, his complaints about how miserable he was turned into claims that he loved the darkness that tormented him, and he proceeded to write threats to the
7
people
iron
who
on
worked with
display
him
here.
at the supermarket, even calling them racial epithets despite them being the same race as him. It appears his resentment for them was an extension of his
Okay,
resentment for
second
having to
shot
hold
for
down the
him on
job
this
to
one.
fulfill his parents' expectations of him, which he saw as a hindrance to his animation work on the EGS projects. He only writes again a couple of weeks later, announcing that he would be shooting a handgun the next day. He recorded it though, and the footage has been archived. In the same passage, he says he wanted to go the same way Ember went, in a fire, but only if he's very sure beforehand that he will, indeed, be passing away, hence the need for a gun.
All
He
right,
also
he's got a
mentions
plug
another
lie in
character
the bunker.
alongside Ember,
Nothing
Mackenzie, one of
great
the other
about
members
that.
of the
Good
EGS,
luck.
who became Randy's de facto muse as Ember took on the role of a more distant goddess. He doesn't make another entry for a total of 3 weeks, and though he begins the next one with the typical topics,
Setting up
he
for your
eventually
4th
starts
strike
talking
here.
about his parents again. My parents don't seem to have a clue as to what goes on in my head. 90% of the time, I'm as pale as a lifeless corpse. In the end, if my mom says, "Why didn't I see the signs?" then she should just stick herself for being so stupid. I mean, honestly, I don't go anywhere unless I have to. I don't speak to anyone unless spoken to. I make 0
And to
friends
him, I
by
say good
choice. I
luck,
dress
because
from
this
head
is
to
an
foot in black.
insanely
Even my bra
long
and leggings
putt
are
for a
black.
fella to
Find
make.
those yet? What about my black panties? I always look like a ghoul sucked the joy and happiness out of my face. Hell, the blind followers on my social media see the dark stuff from my thoughts on the internet anyway, but little do they know, it's actually real. In the next entry, Randy talks about the stems from the official Remember song he got from the woman who sang it, and reveals that he inserted subliminal messages related to EGS throughout the entire track, and revels in the thought of people downloading it and sharing it with no idea that his voice is actually in it. Eventually, he gets more into detail about Mackenzie,
Pay
essentially
attention. This
establishing
next
her
putt's
as
for
his
his eagle.
afterlife
He could learn a
girlfriend,
thing or
which is
two.
a bit odd since he was now in his mid-20s and she was forever 16 years old, as per the EGS lore. He even explicitly says the infamous age is just a number line. Before the year's end, Randy records the first entry to his tapes. In the audio track, titled Trying to Make Sense of It All, he attempts to pinpoint when exactly the chain of events began that ultimately led to the downfall of his sanity over the course of an hour and a half. In
All
it,
right,
he
drop
complains
this
that
on
he's
in and
cursed
save your
not to be
par.
popular, but is sure that EGS will skyrocket in popularity once he's gone. Around the halfway point, he says he began masturbating every day to the thought
Oh
of
my
having a woman's
goodness.
body before breaking down in tears, imagining his afterlife ghost
And
girlfriend,
he's got a
Mackenzie,
12-foot
talking
putt
to
in
him.
front of him
I
here.
know where I go. I'm driving in the car, around people, sitting and thinking, she's right by my side. I know she is. I feel her. I feel her around me all the time.
Keeps does work. My hair was really thin.
Right by.
But you could see it through my scalp. And as you can see, it
And a
is
7-foot putt
regrowing.
for him.
And after 6 months, I started noticing my hair coming back. I guarantee you, you'll see a difference.
And with that, he will finish his round.
What does strength mean
This
to
one's a
you?
4-foot putt.
Some say it's how fast you run a mile. But there are other ways to define
Looking pretty
strength.
good.
What matters
And
is
to
that we
end the
figure
round,
out
you're
together.
dropping this one on in. Good job. It was for
Together,
bogey,
Bogey's
but you
personal
can't
training
have it all.
should be just
Can't have it all.
personal.
This
Whether in a
next
private
putt will be for his birdie. All right, they have finished out for their round. All right, if he can sink this, that's going to force a playoff, which is exciting, and I do know that you will win it. And there we go. They have finished up. And this could get interesting. Your friends have tied and therefore have forced a playoff hole upon us. We won't be in that playoff, but I think we should stick around to see what happens. And let's see what this next player has in store. right, let's see what this next player can do. And as he sets up, he's got 21 feet to the cup. Oh! All right, this putt is for the win. Let's see what happens. Yikes, that went right by. And sinking this next putt will be for his par. All right, they're all done here. And this player was closest to the pin, so this putt could take the playoff right here. Oh! And unfortunately for them, they will miss out on the playoff win as they missed out on getting that putt in the hole. So poor luck for them. And that's gonna do it for our round here today. Thank you ever so much for playing, and hopefully we'll see you back here real soon.